Welcome back to the Chelsweets kitchen. Today we're making a pink lemonade ice cream cake. For this ice cream cake, I wanted there to be actual layers of ice cream, so I made some ice cream discs. To do this, I took the same size cake pan I used to make my cake layers, lined it with some saran wrap, and then filled it with some softened ice cream. So I smoothed this out, froze it, and once it was completely frozen, I popped it out of my pans, and I was ready to start assembling my cake. To make sure these ice cream layers are sturdy, you want to make them pretty thick, and you also need to give them at least a couple hours to make sure they're fully frozen before you start to make your cake. Since this is a pink lemonade cake, I decided to use lemon cake layers and strawberry ice cream. So I alternated thin layers of yellow lemon cake layers with those ice cream discs. It actually went really quickly stacking these cake layers because there was no frosting to smooth, but the real fun began once the cake was assembled. You can see my ice cream discs are actually a bit bigger than my cake layers, and that's caused by two reasons. So I promise I use the same size of pans. It's just that cake layers contract as they cool once they're baked, and I also trimmed the edges from them to remove the caramelization, so they ended up being a bit smaller than the ice cream discs. So I tried to smooth that out with a bench scraper before adding on my crumb coat. So I'm using some lemon buttercream just to kind of lock everything together and make sure that everything is nice and smooth before I began to work on my ombre frosting. As you do this, you need to work pretty quickly because you don't want that ice cream to melt and get into your frosting. Luckily, I'm pretty quick at crumb coating, so this wasn't too much of an issue. If you notice your layers are starting to melt a bit though, you might want to pop your cake in the freezer just so it can help cool it down. I chilled the cake in the freezer for about 5 minutes, and then once my crumb coat was firm to the touch, I started working on my ombre frosting. So for this, I'm using different shades of pink that fade into a yellow, so it truly is like a pink lemonade ombre. I know ombre is only supposed to be one color, but we're breaking the rules today. I made 3 shades of pink that fade into 3 shades of yellow. And all of this is made with lemon buttercream that I made by adding some lemon zest, a little bit of lemon juice, and some lemon extract to my buttercream frosting. The full recipe for this cake is up on Chelsweets.com, so if you guys want to recreate it, you can head over there and follow the link above. Next, I smoothed the top of the cake using a large offset spatula, and then I decided to blend the colors together. So to do this, it looks pretty silly, but I make kind of wiggle marks between each different color of frosting, and I'm sure that I'm wiping off my spatula between these wiggles, just because you don't want different colors to blend together that aren't supposed to. So once I had kind of combined those colors together, I used my bench scraper and made a lot of passes around the cake to get it nice and smooth. If you want to learn more about how I get the sides of my cake so smooth, I have an in-depth tutorial where I walk through all of my tips and tricks, and you can click the link in the upper right corner to watch it. I also did heat up my bench scraper a bit by running it under hot water just because my frosting started to get so cold from the ice cream. So that's a great tip if you run into that. Next, I added a bit more frosting around the base of the cake just to help the sprinkle blend that I'm adding really stick. So I focused on just covering the entire base first, and then I slowly worked some of the sprinkles up the sides to create almost like a sprinkle ombre. I cleaned off the extra sprinkles from around the base, and then it was time to add some really fun frosting swirls on top of the cake. To do this, I'm using a Wilton 1M, and I've combined all of my frostings that I used to decorate the sides of the cake, which creates a really beautiful pink and yellow swirl. If you don't have a Wilton 1M frosting tip, you can totally use any other type of closed star tip like a 2D or anything you have on hand. And then it was time to decorate the top of these swirls. I decided to use some strawberries, which I cut the sides from, and then used a small heart-shaped cookie cutter to cut hearts out of. So this is totally not necessary, but I thought it was fun since it's a pink strawberry lemonade cake to add some strawberry hearts on top. The finishing touch was to add some yellow paper straws behind the strawberries. These also helped kind of support them and keep them upright. Believe it or not, this is actually my first ever proper ice cream cake, so I was so excited when I finished it. I could not wait to cut in. Unfortunately, I left it sitting out for a while because I wanted it to thaw a little bit, and I also took about 1,000,000 photos of it, and it caused the ice cream layers to melt a little bit. So you guys are gonna laugh, but I was so horrified when I cut into this and was like, oh my gosh, these are literally liquefying inside. The buttercream stayed frozen, but the ice cream layers did not, so my tip is to just really heat up your knife when you cut into the cake and cut into it when it's still pretty frozen. So I was able to luckily throw this into the freezer without having all of the ice cream melt, and I was able to save it. But please learn from my mistakes, or you guys probably already know better than me and have made ice cream cakes before. Still turned out great though in the end, and I was really happy with it. It was super delicious. You can find the recipe on Chelsweets.com if you want to recreate it, and hopefully you don't let yours thaw as much as I did.